Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another excellent episode of Erudite Magic. Too much alliteration? Maybe. In this episode today, I have a book that, frankly, it has taken me way too long to review. It's probably the most erudite book of all the books that I've ever read. And many of you, probably having seen the thumbnail and the title of the video, are saying, "Duh, Jeff, we tried to tell you you should have had more Darwin Ortiz on your shelf a long time ago." I'm here to tell you, you were right, and I finally got around to reading Designing Miracles by Darwin Ortiz. So, who is Darwin Ortiz? He is a close-up performer who specializes in gambling demonstrations, sleight of hand. He's known as a leading sleight of hand expert in the world of both magic and casinos. He does a lot of consulting for casinos to show them what they should be watching out for, as well as performing a lot. He's performed on TV multiple times. He's done the presidential inauguration. The list goes on and on and on. Suffice it to say, he is an expert performer, but more importantly for what we care about today as erudite magicians, he is also an excellent author and teacher. Most probably know him for his book, Strong Magic, which was published a number of years ago. I don't recall the exact date, 1994, and you thought I knew everything off the top of my head. Anyway, Designing Miracles was published in 2006. What's it about, you might ask? I think the subtitle says it all, Creating the Illusion of Impossibility. So here's the big 50,000-foot view if you want to know what this book is about. This book is about teaching you how to think about your magic and specifically the design of your magic to get your audiences to think about your magic in a certain way. Make sense? Spoiler alert as I go into this review, I love books like this. You've heard me mention in previous videos about loving the thinking I get when I read a certain magician's book. I love to know how they think about the effect, and when they give me more details to talk about what were the steps that got them to this conclusion and this specific effect, that's gold. And that's basically all that's in this book. Yes, he does teach you a few tricks in an ancillary sort of way, but by and large, he's not teaching you how to perform tricks like the typical magic book. I know some of you are going to be turned off right now because, hey, if it doesn't have magic tricks in it, why would I buy a magic book like that? But because you guys are erudite magicians, I know you'll be excited about a book like this because it's going to teach you how to make your magic better. And as I've said in previous videos, we all have, if you only have a handful of books, we all have enough magic to fill multiple lifetimes of tricks for performing for both paying audiences and friends and family. So it's not about learning more tricks. There is no one trick out there that's going to elevate your performances, take you to that next level, and make you into the next David Copperfield or David Blaine, depending on your age. But this book specifically talks about that, about not always looking for that next piece out there, but how you can take what you already know and might already be performing and design it in such a way that it really elevates the performance, both for you as a magician and for your audience, more importantly. I mentioned that this book is erudite. What I meant by that is, I read it and it's only about 200 pages, but they are very dense pages. You're definitely going to have to read this with your notebook and pen in hand because I think you're going to want to take a lot of notes. And frankly speaking, I think it's the kind of book that you're going to have to reread or read a second time and a third time to get the most out of it. In fact, I've never done this, but I'm going to tell you how you should read this book if you have it on your shelf and maybe you read it a long time ago or it's just been sitting there. My opinion is that you should read it the first time just to get an idea or a flavor of what is interesting to you or what stuck out to you. Maybe jot just a few things down with some page numbers about concepts and ideas. Don't write down a whole lot. Just put the basic concept and the page number that you saw it on. So that's easy enough to do. Then, after you've had a chance to complete the book, digest Darwin's thinking a little bit and decide, is this something you want to pursue further in your own magic? Now is the time to go back to what you wrote down in your journal with those page numbers and say, let's take a deeper dive into those subjects. As you take that deeper dive, I think that's the time to write down a few more notes, something more detailed and substantive, and start to apply it to your magic and write out how this thinking would apply to the tricks that you're doing. Then I would set a schedule and say, I want to read this book every 6 months or a year or something like that, and put it on your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you keep so that you'll remember to revisit it, because I definitely think I didn't get everything out of this book in the first read through. It's just that dense. And we're so used to reading books as magic trick books where you pick a trick you like and you're just reading a few pages out of a book, and you might read those over and over again. But in a book like this where it's trying to teach you how to design better magic, that's going to take a whole new way of thinking and frame of references that you might not be used to doing. So some of the deets here. What can you tell me about the book, Jeff? There are a lot of concepts in here with great illustrations. I thought that everything was super well laid out. When he talked about the difference between visual magic and visible magic, that was particularly eye-opening because we use the terms somewhat interchangeably, but when I read his definitions, I understood a little bit better about how to use visual magic in my act to get the attention. But the big takeaway for me was effect versus method. And a lot of times we make those two synonymous, and when we do, our audiences are smart enough to do basically the same thing. And so Darwin gives you a lot of tools, very specific ways to think about your magic, to change that up and to move your audience's thinking away from the method so that they won't be trying to figure out how you did it. In fact, he gives you tips for that. So if you're the kind of person that people want to guess how you did it, Darwin is going to tell you how to alleviate that and how to move your magic into an even higher level. Bottom line is that this is a book of theory. So you do learn some tricks, as I mentioned. He doesn't lay them out super well. It's mostly if you already know certain versions. Ambitious Card is an example. He'll give you a lot of practical tips on how to elevate that performance of that magic trick into something that is more interesting than just, look, the card's back at the top, the card's back at the top, and to help you understand why what he's saying will help. Let's talk really quickly about the physical aspects of the book. It is approximately the same size as a Tarbell in terms of width and height. It is, however, a lot smaller in terms of the number of pages, which I already talked about. It's about 200 pages, but as far as a theory book, that's probably about all you can handle at once because your mind will just explode if you read, something twice this size by Darwin. It is a hardback book, and it comes with the tastefully designed dust jacket. The book does retail for approximately $50, and I know that for all of us, $50 is $50, right? It's not a cheap book. As far as magic books go, it's pretty closely aligned with what a lot of magic books cost. But the way I would look at this book is as an investment in your magic, because it's different than the typical magic book that is promising you that one trick that if you could just get that trick, you'd become David Blaine or something like that. Instead, this book promises to teach you how to think differently about your magic, and it promises more work. I know, I'm not doing a great job of selling this book because who wants more work? But if you're the type of person who's willing to read a book like this and put the work in, I promise your magic will be better. And I can't believe it has taken me this long to read a book like this, because this is exactly the kind of book that I love, and I know you as erudite magicians will love as well, because it will teach you how to fish instead of giving you the fish. He references a lot of other works, Juan Tamariz and Simon Aronson, and obviously Darwin Ortiz is extremely well read. He's attended a lot of performances. He gives you examples of tricks, both from his own repertoire and some that he kind of teaches you. When he teaches you one of his tricks, it's mostly focused around the design aspects. So while you could perform some of those effects, probably you're best off buying his other books to learn the specifics of those tricks. And That's the only minor annoyance that I had with the book, is that at times I felt like I was getting a ton of great information, and then in the middle there was an advertisement for one of his other books that are now out of print. And it's not so much the advertisement for the other books, it's just that they're out of print now, so I don't have a ton of Darwin Ortiz material. So when I read this book, I wanted more Darwin Ortiz, and it's going to be hard to find. If you're looking for Darwin Ortiz material, or any other book for that matter, I recommend you shop with Don's Magic and Books, who's sponsoring this episode. You guys know I've talked about Don. Don is a terrific guy, runs a small book-focused business out of Minnesota. He offers an incredible selection at great prices, and he has so many books that are used, so if you're looking for something in that secondary market that's harder to find in print right now, Don's is a great place to check. So I'm going to drop a link down in the description below. I hope you will click that link. And to help you this week, Don is offering a 10% coupon with the code DESIGN. So head over to donsmagicandbooks.com and enter the code DESIGN at checkout to save 10% this week. It's a little bit of a heady book. There are a lot of intellectual concepts that I know you're going to love. So in the back of the book, Darwin gives you a glossary of terms, as well as laying out his rules for magic, which I think, like a lot of rules, if you respect the person who created the rules, and I do, especially after reading this book, then you probably want to adhere to the rules unless you have a great reason to break them. But to get to that point, to know when to break them, you have to understand why the rules are there in the first place. Oh, and if you're into audiobooks, this actually has an audiobook version. So if that's your thing and you're interested in that, definitely check that out. In fact, the audiobook version may be a great way to start with this book, as I alluded to earlier. Listen to it in its entirety and start to think about the concepts and whether you want to deep dive into some of the specific chapters and focus areas that Darwin gives you. That's what I have for you this week. I'm going to be at Magi Fest, so be sure to say hi if you see me and we haven't met. Please introduce yourself. I love to meet the erudite magicians out there and to hear from you about what's working for you on the channel, and maybe if you have suggestions for me about things you'd like to see or things that I can improve on, I'm definitely open to hearing that as well. Definitely stop by Don's booth while you're there at Magi Fest. He's renting a big area. He's going to have a lot of books, and we are going to be doing a video review together, and there may be an opportunity to fit you into that review, so please stop by and check it out. I will be doing some vlogging of Magi Fest. I don't know exactly what format it's going to take, but definitely stay tuned to the channel as well as the community page, because I will be posting some things there while I'm at Magi Fest for the erudite magicians who are in Columbus, Ohio for Magi Fest. I can't wait to see all of you and get together and just talk about some magic and magic books. This is gonna be great, and if you can't be there, that's okay. I'm going to be posting videos for you and kind of keeping you abreast of what's going on so that you can say hi to other magicians. And then, of course, I'll be back next week with another terrific episode of Erudite Magic. Until next time, all my erudite friends, keep reading.